van Beethoven, an immortal name in classical music, yet also a mystery that posterity continues to explore. Born in 1770, he possessed innate talent, but his life was a book filled with dark pages, where illness intertwined with creativity. What enabled a person who was deaf, tormented by years of pain, to still create masterpieces that echo through time? Let's step into Beethoven. Beethoven. Beethoven was born in Bonn, in present-day Germany, into a middle-class family with a musical tradition. He was baptized on December 17, 1770, but his exact birth date remains a question, like the first piece in the mysterious puzzle of his life. His father, Johann van Beethoven, was a musician at the local court, a man with great ambitions but often indulged in drinking. His mother, Maria, was a gentle, patient woman, despite enduring the pain of losing 4 of her 7 children. Beethoven, the second among the survivors, grew up in a home both filled with music and full of hardships. With his artistic background, Johann soon recognized his son's innate talent and was determined to make him a second Mozart. He made the boy practice piano and violin from the age of 5, sometimes using harsh methods like beatings or locking him in dark rooms. The early music lessons were not a joy but a pressure weighing on his small shoulders. Neighbors once recounted hearing Beethoven's cries mixed with the sound of music late at night. An image both heartbreaking and haunting. But it was in these harsh circumstances that Beethoven found the flame of music within himself. He didn't just play music, he felt it as part of his soul, as if sound was the only way he could communicate with the world. Regarding education, Beethoven did not have much opportunity for formal schooling. He left school at the age of 11 to pursue music. But his innate curiosity led him to books and discussions with intellectuals. One of his first teachers, Christian, not only taught him how to play the organ, but also introduced him to the works of Johann Sebastian Bach. Those profound melodies were deeply engraved in Beethoven's mind at the time. He once wrote about his student as follows: "If he continues like this, he will become a new Mozart." Though that prophecy was not entirely accurate, it laid the foundation for an extraordinary journey of the talented student. Besides that teacher, he also learned from other local musicians, who helped him refine his technique and broaden his musical vision. At the age of 17, Beethoven first set foot in Vienna, the music capital of Europe, hoping to learn from Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. This trip was full of promise, but was cut short by the sudden death of his mother in 1787. He was forced to return to Bonn, taking on the role of family pillar, as his father declined further due to drinking. During his years in his hometown, the young Beethoven worked at the local theater, playing the organ and composing his first pieces, such as the cantata in memory of Emperor Joseph II. Though these works were not yet famous, they showed the mark of a developing talent. But Bonn did not hold the talented musician for too long. In 1792, with encouragement from family members, Beethoven decided to return to Vienna, this time with a stronger will than ever. Here, he studied music with Joseph Haydn, one of the greatest composers of the time. This teacher-student relationship was not always smooth, but it opened the door for Beethoven to access the upper-class music. From here, a new chapter in his life began. The chapter of a young, ambitious artist, ready to face all challenges to reach the pinnacle. Beethoven's life is a complex tapestry, where innate talent intertwines with childhood setbacks. Family, education, and exposure to music shaped him. but also left many. What drove him to constantly rise, even when fate seemed to always pull him back? That mystery will gradually unfold as we enter his most glorious period. From his early stumbling days with music to becoming a major name in piano, Beethoven built the foundation for his illustrious. In 1792, he quickly impressed the music scene with his masterful piano skills and inspired improvisational. Joseph Haydn often called his student a stubborn person, while Beethoven admitted he didn't learn much from his famous teacher. Nevertheless, it was in piano that he began to assert himself through performances for nobles and paving the way for his first symphonies and sonatas to emerge. Beethoven's compositional career is typically divided into each period marks a step forward in his musical exploration. The early period, from 1792 to 1802, bears the imprint of Mozart and Haydn. But Beethoven soon asserted his own mark with piano sonatas like the Pathétique. At that time, he not only composed but also performed in many concerts at aristocratic salons and public venues. Works such as Symphony No. 1 and the Moonlight Sonata astounded listeners with their blend of intense emotion and creative structure far beyond the standard. During this period, the young Beethoven was still a passionate artist, ready to experiment and break all boundaries. Moving into the period from 1803 to 1814, Beethoven reached his creative peak with monumental works like Symphony No. 3, or Eroica. This symphony was initially written to honor whom he saw as a symbol of freedom and revolution. However, when Napoleon declared himself, the genius composer angrily erased, renaming the work Eroica. This was the first time a symphony surpassed all classical conventions, with unprecedented length and complexity. This period also witnessed the birth of symphony, with its legendary opening 4 notes, da 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 da, often likened to the knot of fate. Those works seemed not just music, but stories told through melodies, deeply imbued with his personal imprint. The period from 1815 to 18... Again, it is a profound inner world. The day Beethoven faced personal difficulties, Symphony No. 9 with a choral ode was born during this period, becoming the first choral symphony in history. This work is not only a musical masterpiece, but also a message of peace and human unity, recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage. Additionally, his late string quartets, such as Quartet No. 14, carry a dark, complex hue, reflecting his mood of loneliness and suffering. Beethoven also tried his hand at the opera, a story about love and freedom. Though the creative process faced many obstacles due to his perfectionism, Beethoven's works not only resonated in, but also spread throughout Europe. He composed incessantly, from piano concertos like Concerto to emotional sonatas like Appassionata. His talent lay in his ability to combine with tight structure, turning music into. But behind that brilliance, a shadow was gradually emerging. As his career reached its peak, health began to become a major issue, signaling the severe challenges ahead. Could a genius like Beethoven continue to create as his body gradually resisted? That is a fascinating mystery we will explore. Although known as a great artist, with masterpieces that move people, Beethoven's health was a sad story, not only as an enemy, but also an inseparable part of his life. In fact, in the 1790s, Beethoven encountered health problems, the first sign being ringing in his ears. Initially just fleeting, but gradually becoming a constant obsession. By 1801, he wrote to his friend, admitting that he was gradually losing his hearing. The worst thing that could happen to a musician. Heiligenstadt, 1802. Revealed Beethoven's despair as hollow. How could I tell people that? I am deaf, I, a musician. Who should be able to hear all the sounds of nature? Around the year 1818, he was almost completely forced to communicate through conversation. The notebooks he used to record what others said. The miracle is that the loss of hearing did not prevent Beethoven from composing. He used his musical imagination and felt vibrations through the floor of the piano to continue working. Symphony No. 9, one of the greatest works, was completed when he had lost his hearing, proving his extraordinary willpower. But the mystery remains. How could a person who can no longer hear sound develop an inner ear? The ability to hear with the mind, a rare phenomenon that science has not yet. Beethoven's conversation notebooks also revealing not only his loneliness, but also his resilience. Another fascinating hypothesis about is that he may have suffered from lead poisoning. In the 18th and 19th centuries, lead was common in household items. Beethoven, a wine lover, may have unknowingly absorbed this toxin. Later researchers analyzed his hair sample and found abnormally high lead levels, 100 times the normal level. Lead poisoning could explain some symptoms: abdominal pain, irritability, and one story tells that he often dipped his hand from the wash basin to wash his face, a habit that may have contributed to the poison. Whether lead was the sole cause, some scientists argue that the lead level may have been exaggerated due to environmental after his death. Nevertheless, this hypothesis has surrounding Beethoven, turning his health in, where each clue leads to new possibilities. Did this toxin silently destroy his, or was it just part of a more complex issue? Besides deafness, Beethoven endured abdominal pain for many years. He frequently complained about digestive bloating and diarrhea in letters to friends. Once the genius musician wrote, "My body is like a traitor, constantly tormenting me with nameless pain." Even doctors at that time couldn't accurately, only providing primitive treatment methods, like bathing in hot springs or taking laxatives. We can try to endure the pains. This body can contain the pain. Nothing helps alleviate the pain. Today, researchers speculate that he might have had inflammatory bowel disease, irritable bowel syndrome, or even alcoholic cirrhosis. But there was no specific evidence at that time. Some people even question. The answer remains vague. Like a misplaced note in the symphony of his, the mysterious pains tormented Beethoven throughout many years, along with bloating and diarrhea, making doctors at that time helpless. Some believe it was a sign of late-stage syphilis. The disease could cause organ damage, nerves, and hearing. Beethoven had a complicated love life, often falling in love with women from different or who were already married, like Josephine Brundage, who he was once, or Teresa Dobranovic. Studied at 18 while Mr. Sune. This emotional liberality makes many suspect this musician might have contracted syphilis, a common sexually transmitted disease, and the symptoms Beethoven experienced seem to match the manifestations of late. At that time, syphilis was rarely official due to social stigma, making the story even more intriguing. Although there's no direct evidence or records, but his diverse romantic life, from the relationship with Countess Juliet to the mysterious immortal love letter, raises speculation that illness tormented him constantly. though illness tormented him constantly. His final years were the most tragic chapter, where he gradually moved away from the spotlight to step into the darkness of fate. After 1815, Beethoven's health seriously declined. He lived alone in his final years, and his health continued to decline. Digestive problems became increasing, accompanied by liver disease, possibly due to drinking or chronic habit. Beethoven once wrote in his diary, "I live as an exile. No one understands my pain." During these years he also faced family problems, particularly the custody battle for his nephew. After that battle, this dispute not only exhausted him, but also led to a state of deep depression. In 1826, Beethoven's health hit rock bottom when he contracted pneumonia during a trip in. He returned to Vienna in a state of exhaustion, bedridden for many months. Doctors attempted to save him by drawing blood and draining fluid from his primitive medical methods of that time. In terms of effectiveness, Beethoven died on March 26 during the major storm in Vienna. There are many stories that, when thunder roared, he raised his fist to the sky as a final. Nearly 20,000 people attended his funeral, demonstrating his influence on the public. Beethoven's death was not just the end of a life, but also the beginning of new questions. What truly killed him? Liver disease, lead poisoning, or some. Those present at his deathbed recounted that Beethoven whispered incomprehensible, "Applaud, the comedy is over." Whether it was a philosophical farewell, or just the hallucinations of a fading mind, his death, though mysterious, still carried a strange beauty. Like a final symphony playing amidst the storm, the life of a musical genius came to an end. But posterity continues to investigate the mysteries of his health, from his skull to individual hairs. In 1827, during the autopsy, doctors noted his temporal bones were a characteristic that could be related to hearing. Scientists of that time believed this could be the cause of his deafness, but there were no modern devices to verify, or manifestations of chronic infection, or pressure injuries in the brain. But everything still remained at a level of speculation. The research became more difficult when some bone fragments went missing or were still. The remaining bone parts were preserved over many, and by the 20th century, scientists, of course, poor preservation made the result. Some people even questioned whether that skull truly belonged to Beethoven, when rumors spread that it had been swapped during. The mystery surrounding his skull is not just, but also a highly dramatic story. Like an opera he once composed, Beethoven's hair was cut as a keepsake. After his death, it brought astonishing discoveries. In 2000, scientists in America and found lead concentrations 100 times. This supported the lead poisoning hypothesis, but also raised the question whether this was the sole cause. More recently, DNA research from hair partially explaining his health condition, and scientists also found signs of hepatitis B virus infection, something that might have contributed to his death. But hair research was not without controversy. Some argue the hair might have been contaminated from the environment after his death, rather than during his lifetime. These strands of hair passed down through generations became symbols of efforts to decode. Each new discovery opens a door, but simultaneously closes another, making the story of his death an endless cycle. After all, we all see that Beethoven was not just a composer, but also a real, vibrant person. From his early days in Bonn to resounding, he proved that talent can overcome all barriers, even deafness, lead poisoning, pain, all could not extinguish his creative flame. His final years full of loneliness and tragic death further highlighted the resilient will of genius. Scientific researchers turned to hair, and results show the complexity of his health. Beethoven left humanity not only a but also a lesson in resilience. He proved that no matter how harsh fate may be, humans can still compose beautiful melodies.